Okay, thank you. Hello everybody, welcome to this meetup. We are Barcelona Free Software. We have very nice t-shirts. If you make us a donation, I will donate you a t-shirt later. We can talk about it. Thank you very much to Acacia Hub for hosting us. I don't exactly know what Acacia Hub does, so Gaston over there, you can ask him later. Right? They are a co-working, co-creator, co-things space. Very nice. Very nice people. They let us use this space for free. So thank you very much. So yeah, we are Barcelona Free Software. You can follow us on Mastodon, Blue Sky. We have this really big instance if you find it. Meetup, places, things. Anyhow, today we have Lluís. He's going to speak about CityBikes, things, open data, open problems. Lluís, thank you. Do you want it here or do you want it here?
Okay. Cool. So thank you everyone for coming. I will just start with a random question, like how many business users are in the room? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, 6 kind of sometimes. And for how long? Absolutely all the time, like 10 years, 6 years. Cool. Close. Better. So yeah, it was just to know where to put more strength. So this is the intro of my slide. I will start with a brief intro of my project. I will try not to let the intro get too long because I'm more excited to show what we've been building next. But I think it's worth explaining what the project is and where it comes from. This project started in the year 2009. This is a picture of the first talk I gave about the project. At that time it was called OpenBC. That other picture, it's me with long hair and a friend. We are pretending to have a stand in the Mobile World Congress when developers were still allowed to enter. So yeah, we took the table and put some cards and random stuff and started showing the project, pretending that we were, I don't know, something. And just by being a kid, I thought, well, why not reuse the same slides I used in the year 2009? Probably that will work if they can be written. So what was OpenBC? OpenBC started because I was frustrated with using the bike sharing system at the time. BC didn't have an Android app available, so I thought I wanted to create just an app. At the start it was just for me or random experimentation, but then it soon got deeper into the technical details. At the time I really didn't know that much on what I was building, as you can see. The main problem I found was that the information was not public. I didn't know if this information was public, but there was a website and you could visit the website and see it on the map, and that was it. That's when I learned that there was a term called scraping, which is the act of getting information from a random page. It could be in a machine-readable format like JSON or whatever, but at that time this was just regular expressions or HTML, which some people do not recommend, but do not follow recommendations. And then there was a server side in the middle that was accessing the VC servers and getting all this information. Nowadays this seems obvious, but at the time it wasn't that obvious. Phones weren't that powerful, so you needed to do the scraping on the server in order for the phone to work fast. Because if not, you try to load the map and getting the information was taking like 10 seconds, which was too much. All of this was to create an app. This app was called OpenBC, and the premises it was that it had to be free, without ads, and it had to be open source. And this talk today is the story on how we started with the system in Barcelona, and somehow we reached global world domination. This is around 800 systems. It's not 800, I think it's 790 something. If you want to add a new system, I would welcome you to do it, because that way maybe we can reach 800 systems this year. So let's go back to the first app that I created. At the start it was called OpenBasing. Then when I started adding more cities and knowing that more cities had the same problem as Barcelona, that was a website that didn't work properly and an Android app that was not really good to use. So adding more cities, I started creating forms of the same project. There was OpenBasing, then there was Open London something, and then at some point I just joined everything and I call it CityBikes. I worked on the app for quite a bit, like 1 year, maybe 2 years. There was a healthy people using it. I think it got like 40K downloads over some years, 10,000 active users. I checked that stat yesterday. But the other type never was. What happened is that, being the original hipster, I stopped using smartphones at the time. I didn't like the platform, Android itself. What started as something of an open platform, they kept changing the APIs, so they kept asking me to change the app and to increase the API level, change my views for fragments. I didn't care about all of that stuff. And also, because I was not using a smartphone anymore, suddenly the app was not that relevant to me. But what was relevant was the inherent problem that the project had, which was that this information was somehow important, which was, the difficult part was accessing all this information, not just displaying it on a map. So that made me think that even though maps have like the most tangible benefit, it's data on itself that has the true power of changing things. Like data is the facilitator for creating new things, and that's what really got me excited about the project, just to keep adding more information and let other people create apps to solve the original problem for me. So yeah, what is CityBikes? CityBikes is the mash of Python files that I kept adding and piling together, which later become a Python library. So all the logic to create bike-sharing systems is in CityBikes. And then this library is run server-side and exposed over a free and open API. Honestly, the fact that the API was open was partly an accident and partly deliberate. It's easier to create open endpoints. It's harder to protect endpoints. And because I was doing the scraping, I knew how easy it was to circumvent authentication on APIs. So there was really no point in trying to close down the public endpoints that my app was using, since I knew that at some point someone was going to circumvent that and start accessing the servers if they really wanted. And that was one of the reasons why I left it open, not caring that much. At the same time, I started seeing people creating apps for all the platforms that there were in there. There were apps for iOS, there were apps for Android, for smartwatches, for the People Watch, for Google, whatever Vision thing that never worked. Some person created like a helmet with LEDs, and whenever you were closing and stationed, the LEDs would change colors. And just seeing people doing all this stuff when data was available to them, I don't know, it got me really excited. I created this graph of the number of networks that BikeBikes supported over time. So this was kind of the growth of the project. We started by 0, 1, then it moved to 30 something, and it kept increasing. There was this huge intake of networks at some point. I don't really know what happened there. And yeah, that's how the project kind of grew. Because I think that just showing one slide where you see Barcelona and then the next slide, magic, we have these many cities, it's not the same as seeing how it increased. There is a question.
What's the reason for the decline?
We are going to go to that in another slide.
Networks? What's the meaning of networks?
Okay, so a network for BikeBikes is a system like pacing. So if we go, yeah, it can be a city, but it's not always a city. Sometimes it can be a big region. Sometimes it can be an entire country. So let's say that a network is an instance of something that's separate from the others. Or busy versus, I don't know, the system in New York. Yeah. Yeah, so you were asking about the slope on around 2017, 18. Around that time, I don't know if you remember, but something happened that there started appearing lots of companies that were just throwing bike sharing systems like free bikes. They were everywhere in some cities in Europe. And in Barcelona, it never really got to that point. I think I wasn't living here, but I think that the city council just forbid it, but I think that for maybe 1 month it was there. Like, there would come a company that just start putting bicycles on the street, then they had an app, and this was a system. And at some point, some of these systems were appearing and shooting down, like in 1 month or 2 months, maybe Mobike, which was one of the big ones that shut off. They would go into a city, just throw, I don't know, 500 bicycles, see how it goes. If it didn't work, they just took the bicycles and they throw it in the trash. So personally, I didn't really believe on that, but also as a developer, it was making me nervous because I didn't want to keep trying to follow this trend of new systems. Like, if there was a new system every 2 months, then it will shut down. Then I will be doing work that, I don't know, it didn't make that much sense to chase this trend, let's say. So I just decided to sit back and see how it unfolded, kind of. Something else that happened around that time, in 2014, the North American Bike Share Association started this specification. It's called General Bike Share Fleet Specification. It's supposed to be a counterpart of the GTFS that maybe you are more familiar with, which is the specification for transit systems. This specification is very broad. It's for implementers of systems, so it needs to support everything from shared cars to shared mopeds to shared bikes, shared scooters, different kinds of scooters, different kinds of ranges. So you can imagine that the specification it's a bit tricky to use. But still, it meant that many systems started using this specification instead of just me having to randomly scrape sources, which for my project was a good thing. So these are the current numbers as of today. This started in 2014, and now around 30% of the systems in CityBikes are using GBFS. There is an extra 32% that potentially will start using GBFS in the upcoming years, but they are not there yet. And then the other is a bit of random data that I put here just to make the slide better. But sourced, it means that I can source a kind of an open endpoint that people can access. And licensed, it means that I know what license this information has. So, I mean, just 21 systems from the less than 800 systems that CityBikes has, I know the actual license. I also have to be frank, sometimes I'm a bit not into a lot of details, so it's possible I've missed lots of systems that have a license and maybe I just don't know. So at least there are 21 that they are easy to know what license this feed has. Other just means ancient websites with HTML, and then you can just use XPath expressions or regular expressions to parse very ugly JavaScript, which honestly are the good ones. If you think about it, API changes, like GBFS, it's now in version 3, so it's been version 0 point something, 1 point whatever, 2, 3, things changing, like every big step, like between GBFS version 1 and 2, it means there's been breaking changes. With shitty websites that do not change for 15 years, they never break. So there is some code in there that's been working for at least 15 years. It's the same website, it's very early, but it works, and maybe it's the future of open data. Who knows? So going back at this graph, I decided to plot on top of it a new line. I tried to look for the GitHub commits over time, but it really didn't trend to anything, because I think at the start of the project I was doing like very little commits of gigantic changes, and as time moved forward and I started chasing the commit kind of drag thing, there are more commits, so it was not relevant. But my excitement for the project, I think, is very relevant to the number of networks over time. So when you ask what happened when networks started disappearing from the system, it seems it's either networks that do not work, and I decide to delete them because I really don't want to try to add them again, or systems that started shutting down because of these new free-floating systems that were put in places. So there's been lots of systems that they try it for 5 years, it's like a public concession, and then they decide that it's not worth having it, and they shut it down, and then 1 month after there is nothing left. No stations, no whatever. Something funny is sometimes I receive emails from a guy that buys wholesale failed bike sharing systems, and he offers me a very good price for bicycles in China. So if I wanted, I could order like 5,000 of these bikes, and I think it was like $3 per bike or something like that. At some point I thought, maybe I could create a bike sharing system. So what happened there is known as the Valley of Despair. The Valley of Despair is when you've been accumulating this very random knowledge over time. At the start you are very excited and you can keep pushing forward things just because you don't know better at all. So everything works, but then there is a moment that you know way too much of this random stuff that really doesn't matter. Like the excitement graph just shows that if you don't know things, you can create more things than if you really know what you're doing. Well, that's my own definition of the Valley of Despair, don't quote me on that. So I think that's what happened around this time. And sometimes I thought that maybe I was beating a dead horse with the project. Like 30% of the systems are using an specification. It's no longer owned by the North American Bike Share Association, now it's owned by a foundation that also has GTFS. So we could say that this specification is in good hands. 30% of the fleets are using it. potentially 30% more of them are going to start using it, and ideally, or in an eidetic world, we could think that in the future all of them are going to use it, and the systems that are not using it are not worth consuming, maybe. It's a way of showing them that you want them to stop using shitty HTML sites, although I've already said that that's the proper open data.
This specification, you said it's owned by another entity now. Is that affiliated with the US government? Is something happening now, or?
I don't know, is this beer full? Oh yeah, perfect. That's it. I don't know what happened with the specification. I'm going just to hijack this question to just bullshit on this specification. I don't know, it's, okay, yeah, wait. Better. The companies pushing the specification forward are the ones that are not systems like Bising, are more the systems that are like, how do you call the free-floating ones that are in Barcelona? Scott, Bolt, and all of these. They are the biggest companies behind the specification. They are very pro-specification because their business is in discoverability. While everyone knows that the Bising app is this app and that's the only way of using it, these companies want to be visible on the apps. And in fact, if you use the official Android app for the Bising, I checked the other day, and they show these free-floating systems. If you go to a button and then you press here, 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 and there, then suddenly you can see Bolt and Scott and all the other systems. So the people behind the specification on itself are the companies that want to be discovered and that want to coexist on systems that are already implemented. But these companies live in a completely different world of the other companies running the traditional bike-sharing systems, like JCDeco or Clear Channel. These are like prehistoric companies that have like offices and couches and probably smoke cigars. Which is also, again, it's not a bad thing on itself. Like I do not like any of the two companies. Anyway, or yes, I mean the bicycles are nice, right? Unless they send you a cease and desist letter for accessing their information. So what got me through the Valley of Despair? That was where I was before, down tracking on ranting about GBFS. What got me through the Valley of Despair are the many contributors that help keep CityBikes updated over time. So all the contributors help somehow adding new systems, removing systems that do not work anymore. Some of the people have local context, like they know that the system on their local city maybe has shut down or it's going to be replaced with another one. So sometimes they help. I also want to especially mention Martin, that has really made me jump on top of the Valley of Despair last year. Like for 1 year he started doing pull requests like a madman. And then I also want to acknowledge MLNet for helping me get out of the Valley of Despair. I spoke with them about the problems I was having with the project and the general vision, what I wanted to work, what I thought were like good features to have on the project, and then decided to give me a grant to work on the project for 1 year full time, which is good. So this is the talk. This was just the intro. CityBikes, the new stuff, also known as the stuff that got me excited. So right before the Valley of Despair, I attended a talk about multi-agent system design, something like that. It was a Python guy doing fast trading, finance, and he showed a very nice system where information was streamed through 0MQ sockets. Then you could connect subscribers to that. Nowadays people use Kafka and it's a common pattern, but I really got obsessed with this pattern and I really didn't want to change anything on the back end of my project until I really use this design, which is kind of how you don't write software, right? But still, it's how it works. So Hyper is the framework I built for running the CityBikes infrastructure. Basically, it's wait. I will read you the README. One moment. I also now have a documentation site. So Hyper is a high concurrency task scheduling system built for scraping bike sharing networks. Network updates are published over a 0MQ pub socket, allowing external components to subscribe to live data updates. The publisher, which is the main part, it's highly configurable and allows for fine-grained control over scrape intervals and settings. Every update is a task, blah blah blah. And it uses queues and workers. Nice. Close. Now I know what Hyper is. So basically what it means is that tasks run, there is a thread pool running PyBikes, then every update is a new task, the scheduler puts the tasks on the queue, they get executed, and whatever comes through goes to the socket and to the subscribers that connect to these data updates. This was briefly how it was before on the system. I had a traditional set of RQ workers, and then I will schedule tasks, the workers will do the work, and then information will flow through a normal pipeline where it will end up in a database somewhere, and then the API will use the database. That's kind of like the traditional system. Unfortunately, that database was MongoDB, and unfortunately all my code was Python 2 point something, 2.7. So it reached, it's not that I am alcoholic, it's that I don't have water available. This design, while there is nothing bad with it, made me think that I could not iterate faster enough with the project. For a while I was very obsessed that I needed to add historics to the system. Historics as in providing historical information, not just real time. Like let's say you can query a station and you can know through which, like what steps has it gone through over time, also known as time series. So the first time I tried that, I was using MongoDB. I started throwing data in there because, you know, everyone has told us that MongoDB was this magical thing where you could just put things in there and it would just magically make the problem disappear. I bought that Kool-Aid and it didn't work. At some point I had like an 80 gigabyte something database, and every time I tried to get something out of there, my system crashed. My computer also wasn't super good, and I really didn't feel like spending resources trying to get things out of this database, which is in an abandoned hard drive somewhere on my file of old stuff. So I stopped doing that, And then I just started storing real-time information and forgot about it until Hyper, which is what made the new design possible. The new design possible because I wanted to be able to add new things to the project without breaking the other parts. The problem that you have when you have a system that's running and it's somehow like it has a high usage or high usage for my mental scope, it's that you don't want to break things for people. It's not that they are paying, but somehow you feel responsible for keeping this thing working. So whenever you start introducing changes, you break things, and you don't like breaking things, especially in a side project, because you cannot invest all your time on it. This new design meant that I could add components to the system without breaking the things that are already working. So in this very nice graph, you can see how the publisher is running CityBikes, the little bicycles go through the socket, and then every of these boxes, it's its own system doing something with this information, instead of the traditional pipe. This is how it looks. It's kind of small. Let's zoom in. I just wanted to show that transition. There is one subscriber that gets this information and it's storing everything real time in an SQLite, and it's about 50 megabytes. Ever since I got this problem with MongoDB, I grow very, very scared of big databases. I know that 80 gigabytes is not a big database for normal companies, but at least for me it's too big, it doesn't fit in RAM. I cannot work with that. There is a subscriber that gets real-time information, puts it on an SQLite, and then there is a REST API on top that still maintains the syntax that I had with the previous system that was using MongoDB. So no one noticed anything breaking down when I changed over to this pattern. It still works. Now it lives there, it keeps running. I don't need to write updates for this thing anymore. I can forget about it. Good. API working, I can start working on other stuff. Other stuff like historics. So historics work very similar. But instead of just storing real time, I'm storing all the changes that happen with every update. I have a hash somewhere, and whenever there is an update on a station, I can check that hash, know if something changed, and then if something changed, I add a new row to the database with that change. This grows at around 1.8 gigabytes per day, which still makes me nervous. So what I do, I break it into little chunks of 1.8 gigabytes over time. I throw all these chunks in a big pile of little chunks, and every once in a while, I process these chunks and throw it in what I call the code database, which is a fancy name for DuckDB, which is another fancy thing that I bought on the Kool-Aid. And then every month I run a script that processes this information and generates a bunch of Parquet files. Parquet files are like, let's say, big binary CSV. They compress better, and they are better overall, except that you cannot open them in Excel. And they are very small. Once the monthly dumps have been done, the code DB can go away. So all this information that I'm piling, I can delete it once I feel that the dumps are okay, like the information is not broken or something. Yeah, the ratio of conversion is if storing it in the database, it's like 1.8 gigabytes per day. The monthly dumps are like 2 gigabytes per month. 2 gigabytes per month, it's a pretty okay metric to keep historic sustainable for a runway of, say, 5-10 years, which doesn't make me nervous because being a side project, I don't want to be funding this forever. I mean, if it's just having 2 servers, okay, but spending way too much money in storage is not something that I have in mind. 2 gigabytes per month, I think it's okay. Oh yes, and then there is a stat subscriber. The stat subscriber is exactly the same as the hot stat subscriber, except that it's storing 4 weeks worth of data, and then it's continuously deleting whatever is older than 1 month, which means that the database stays at around 40 gigabytes. This database is meant for getting live historical information, while Parquet files are something that I publish once a month. The historical REST API is giving you the last 4 weeks of information, and you can query anytime. And this REST API gives you all the changes for a particular station, and then you can also access and aggregate by the hours. So an hourly aggregate of the changes on a station means the average, the maximum, and the minimum that it has gone through. And that's kind of it. What I like on how this works is, traditionally I will just be using one database. With this crazy bespoke system, I have like, the database is not a database anymore, it's just a file. When I'm moving it around, I can do stuff that, I don't know, probably it's terrible design, but I like it. Yeah, this we have told this how I am over time. How long have I been speaking?
40 minutes.
40 minutes. Oh, that's way too much. Yeah, let's not do that. Let's do a demo to see if I have time.
Yeah.
Good. Too small? Big. Yeah, let's just go with the historical information. What we can do with that. Let's fire up. Are there any DuckDB fans in the room? One? Good. This is for you. It has reverse search, which is magnificent. So something that you can do with DuckDB is you can read remote Parquet files. So this is reading a Parquet file that's over on this endpoint. It's called data.citybike.s/dumps/2025 April bising stats, which means give me all the stats from the bising system from the last month. So, well, there are lots of rows in here. Let's maybe ask for what was the busiest station. If we grow by all, or yeah, wait. Yeah, we don't want to keep downloading this Parquet file every time, so I'm just going to put it in a table. Create table as blah. This is going to create a table from the information that is on the Parquet file. So now we can query this table, and we are happy bunch. Yes. Now we can run this aggregate. Here I am doing so because every entry, as you see, it's like it has this ID and then a number, the name, some stuff. But if you see it over time, it changes, like 23, 24, 23. That's the number of bicycles that are on the station. This is the timestamp of where it happened. If we grow by all the fields that I'm asking, which is, yeah, I mean, we could grow by an actual ID, but in the end, it's what it's doing. We are going to get the busiest systems. If we limit it, we can actually see. And the busiest station for the last month has been one that is on the street, Carrer Enrique Granados, number 35 with ID 80. It changed 7,500 times. Cool. So maybe we can get this ID, and I'm just going to copy paste this command. This is doing the same query, but then it gets out in a CSV, and then I'm passing it into a script that is going to plot it. And if everything works, we will see how this station has been changing over the last month. Then something that I think, I don't know, it was fun to see. It's what happened on this period. Yeah, if you see here, it stopped working around the 28th and the 29th, which is when we had a blackout on the whole country. So yeah, the same query can potentially be run not only on the Vsync system. I like just using the Vsync because it's faster to download, but I think with the internet connection that we have over here, it's not a problem to run it worldwide. Yeah. That's what you see. We have it, and then the same query actually. I mean, it's going to take a bit longer, but not that much. Yeah, I knew that this was going to happen. There is this system that has their stations, their sensors are broken, so they are not reporting properly the number of bikes. So this station is faking that it's very active, but it's only, I mean, it's a station in a faculty in Portugal, and it's not changing that much. This is the idea. I mean, we can see it here. Yeah, I know I looked into it. I say, ugh. I mean.
No, this is Enrique Canal.
Okay, you're right. Thank you. I was so ready to just jump and say, look at this graph. It's broken. Fine. I would like to have the full ID. Okay, I will just ask for the ID and the name. That way, maybe I will see the full ID. There you go. Then I can copy this ID. I mean, there's still a bit of things I could improve. I mean, I'm just playing with this information. This information, it's published, and if there is any data scientist or people that like playing this with this information, please do. It's on the website. We started doing these historical dumps on November, so you have information from last November. It's not the last 10 years, but it's better late than never. World stats. Make me happy. Yes. Look, it's broken. Maybe I could send them an email and say, look what I discovered, your system sucks. This looks more like it did something in New York, and we know that in New York it's a big place. So probably this was like the busiest in the world, as CityBikes is. I mean, there are stations that have like 80 or 90 bicycles. Can you imagine? I mean, yeah, probably you're not as obsessed with bike sharing, but that's a lot.
Yes, can you do it again?
Yes.
So it has 90 bikes, but it's still empty lots of the times.
Yes.
Right? So like.
Oh, because it's very busy. Probably it's in the middle of Wall Street, and you see yuppies with their scooters and buying shares, right? and using bike share.
Does it get empty like at a certain point during the day, or is randomly?
Yeah, when they go do bathroom. Yeah, this is a good point. To make sense of this information, I should probably start adding the time zone on what these networks are, because I'm looking at it as UTC and I really don't know what time zone is in New York. I mean, probably it's out there on the internet, but and that would be a good way of trying to make sense of this information. But again, I'm not a data scientist, I'm just a whatever thing. But this graph just showed me it's working. People can do things with this. It's useful already. So I can forget about this already. I mean, it works. People will start doing cool shit. Or not. We see. If not, maybe I shut down the project. Who knows? What else? This is the website. It needs to be remade because it's old. But it still works. We added free-floating systems. I know there is one called Pony in Nice. So free-floating are these kind of systems. Nice.
Nice, it's absolutely.
It's in America, right? Nice. This is an e-bike and it's 46% battery. Pretty good, right? I don't know. There are other systems that use this. I know that Chicago also, it has kind of a mix, and probably this is the future also of Barcelona and all the cities in the world. There are stations and there are also vehicles. These are scooters. We also added, the project is called CityBikes, but now we have scooters. Should it have scooters? Yes, no? Is it an acceptable form of transportation? It's not bikes. But I also have electric bikes, so...
Quan afegeixis patinets està tot bé.
Scooters are patinets.
Okay. I thought you meant like scooter, motorbikes.
You are technically right. And the GBFS specification has a different name for... motorbikes are mopeds, and scooters are like tabletop... It's a weird name that you've never heard. And you know that assisted bicycles are different than electric bicycles. Like electric are electric, and assisted are something called pedelec. And I could add it on the API and say, this is a pedelec bicycle, but nobody knows what a pedelec bicycle is. Or yes. You had a question.
So do you have a unique identifier per bicycle?
No. Because it's a one-time bicycle. Every time you take the bicycle, it gets an EYD. So I cannot track vehicles, so they are not on the historics. There are some systems that do not do that, so potentially you could track them. So if you want to use the historical data and track vehicles, please do. And we are whistleblower of the company. Yes?
Offers this kind of service, but then the data is scraped. So it's not that they provide the data through some endpoint of data gathering that you offer. And more specifically, how does the consensus process work to accept a network? Like, can I fake my own network if I want, for example?
And you could fake a network. Yes, you could. Absolutely. And you could add it to CityBikes and nobody will realize. This is the world.
So it's like a scraping process, or is like the network gives the data?
It depends on the system. Like I'm showing you like a website. This is the BSIM website. So they have a working map. So you can open the developer tools, and when you reload, you can see. You put here X error, and you say there is a point that's called get stations. So you can copy a scroll, then you go here and then you paste, and there you go. You have, that's your first scraper. Because nowadays we have nice things. So scraping it comes from the age of looking at HTML and JavaScript and everything. if everything is JSON, then it's no longer scripting. It's more like you're consuming APIs. Some of them are public and some of them are private or not documented. Yeah, I was doing the demo, right? I think, well, yeah, this is another thing that I'm working at the moment. I told that I stopped doing the Android app because I didn't have a smartphone, but then I realized that nowadays, maybe I'm getting out of my league here, but it's my impression that it didn't used to be like this, which is like every old person says. But I think we were in a better shape when I started the project, when we are all creating apps and everything, that nowadays where there's like 3 closed platforms, there are 3 major mobility apps. Everyone is using these 3 major mobility apps, or at least they prefer to use them compared to the official ones. And I also seen it with the projects that are using my API. Lots of people create these apps, but then they don't get maintained over time. So people start using the commercial ones or the closed source ones. I think in the current state of things, I think now it's the time to double down on open source, which is something that all these companies have embraced internally, but really not taken seriously philosophically, and start making free software that respects all our freedoms. So I want to create an app that you can use and that you can feel comfortable using, that nobody's tracking you, that you can use it without giving your location. Maybe it works offline. I mean, I know I've used it, my old app offline, and using apps offline is good. So I think we should have nice things. So that's why I'm going to create another app, I hope. You can change the theme of the app, which is good user choice. And if you press it a lot of times, then you get a random color. Yeah, that's all I had to show today. Questions?
So,
First on the back.
yeah, how do you, like, if you do keep track of what works and what's not? I mean, the networks which are not working anymore, do you somehow, like, look through the logs and see what's going on there?
Yeah, this is the moment where you realize I'm not really a person you should trust. I just let them fail, and if nobody comes to fix them, it means it's not relevant to anyone. So I'm not really monitoring things unless they are things that I am already kind of using. Like, if I see that the basic system is not working, I say, oh my god, I need to do something. But if it's I don't know, a system in NICE, I hope somebody from NICE contacts me, and if not, maybe this system should not be in CityBikes. But you are right, a proper project will have a page called status.citybikes, and then I could see what networks work. In fact, no, I can show you something cool. Wait, this is something in PyBikes. I really keep track of what works and not by running the tests on PyBikes. So let's say I want to test a system in Tübingen, and I run this command, and then I get a map of what was scraped. So the unit tests generate JSON, and then I use this JSON to generate this HTML that shows me that the system works, and it has these stations, and then it has these vehicles. And this for it's like a report. And then I have this whole system that tells me when a station it's out of the hull, because something that lots of networks do, when there is a station that is under maintenance, or they don't like this station, or it's a test station, they still keep it on the system, but they put it very far away on the map. So it's not on their app, but it's somewhere in Saudi Arabia, and you see in Saudi Arabia a test station from something in Paris. So you have to start filtering things by B-boxes. So this is kind of a bespoke tool I made for B-boxes. Why it's relevant to your question? If I run it, wait, GBFS, it has many, but if I pass this flag and run 100 workers, it's going to be faster. I can run a test, and then I will see in red the systems that are broken. Then maybe I go and fix them whenever I feel like there are too many broken systems in CityBikes. It worked. Yeah, we can zoom in and see that it worked. I hope some of them is broken, because then, no, all of them are working. Such a nice project. Let's try something that I know it has broken systems. Nextbikes does not exist. Nextbike, yes. I could token. I tried to give them like many years ago, and it doesn't work anymore. They're still using it. So there are companies with so many resources to keep these servers running, even though they are banned. They probably have forgotten that they are running somewhere. I mean, it's just increasing their AWS quota. They don't care. If somebody from this company is seeing this talk, please give this money to me, and then you can access the system. Or maybe you can give me the servers. I mean, I could work with a proxy pool. Yeah, question.
Similar question. Like when you first started the project, how did the infrastructure look like? Like did you make it immediately highly available, or it was more of a like pet project thing at first and then evolved?
Good question. The first OpenVSync thing, it was run on something Google had called App Engine, just because it was free. And not that many, I mean, yeah, to answer, like, let's answer both questions at the same time. Like how, I keep talking about, wow, my system, it's being used by everybody, but maybe it's just my scope of things. So you look at the numbers and you decide if it's a lot or not. This is like 3 requests, 2 requests per 30 seconds. This is like a rate. I really don't know how to read these graphs. Okay, let's say last 5 minutes. Last 5 minutes there's been these many requests. Yeah, 4, 5, okay. Really, 200 requests per minute? That's low. I'm sorry. I lied to all of you. Or not, I don't know. You decide, this is my traffic. 5 minutes of CityBikes. These many requests. Not so much. So I can run it on small servers. But it's because I am rate limiting. Before rate limit, I think I was serving like 1,000 requests per minute, usually, which is, again, I mean, if I manage to pull it off, it's because there is not so much traffic. Question?
So much data, and I asked myself, like, do you know how it's used? Like, is there some companies who use and see like how other networks working? Or is there some research projects done?
Yes. There are people writing research papers that sometimes cite CityBikes as a source. The 3 major companies, mobility companies, are using information from CityBikes. Some of them are allowed to do it, others are not allowed to do it. And there's lots of there are also people that have built like apps. I do not keep track of all of them, but I usually know whenever I search for my own project, which is kind of like asking the mirror if I am pretty, or they send me an email because they feel rate limited, and I ask them what are you building or if it's something interesting. I also know there are like universities that use the API for class exercises. So there is a teacher somewhere in Ireland that emails me once every 6 months asking me for 10 API keys for their students because they have a statistics project that uses the API. And there are companies using the CityBikes API for interview, how do you call it? Yeah, the test that they give you in the middle interview to waste your time for 2 weeks. Yeah, so sometimes they email me saying, I need to finish this task for this company that has asked me to use your API for whatever. And I tell them to wait 1 hour and they can keep. But usually it's companies trying to test if somebody has front-end skills. It would be nice to have a better way of tracking who is using CityBikes and for what. One way would be to enforce using API keys. So people will need to register, get an API key, and write in an input box what they are doing. But this will mean I will break the things that are already using CityBikes without an API key. And also, I think I like reducing the friction that you get when, I like how nice it is to use something where you don't need to register. Like, I don't want to register to play. If I see an API and see I need to register for an API key, I usually try not to do it. But yes, maybe an input on the website.
Do you ever get contacted by cities and stuff to like improve the network? Since you're sitting on all the data, you can tell them which station that needs to be expanded or.
Well, since I started accumulating the data last November, not yet. I know there are, at least I know there is one company that is providing that service to city councils. They are doing basically the same as CityBikes, but closed. And you can pay them to use their platform to see how your system is doing. Good for them, I guess. But yeah, no. City councils do not really contact me anymore. At the start of the project, I think city councils were, so open data was kind of niche thing, then it got a bit of trendy, so all the city councils wanted to be in there. They wanted to tell me, oh, we have now an open data portal, please use it, so we can show results that it was worth putting money on the open data portal. Some systems send me an email asking to be added to CityBikes. But not to improving, not for improving. Maybe they are scraping my API for it, but I don't know. Time for a last question, and if not, I think we are done. 1, 2, 3, 1 question, 2 questions.
Related to this question, I know you probably answer no, but is anyone thinking about doing a datathon or something so that we find out that this thing that they did in Barcelona is crap, no? That we have 2 systems, one for Barcelona and one for the Metropolitan.
You mean the I'm busy? Well, is it crap? I mean, if you look at it like it is right now here on this map, yes, it is crap. Because there's lots of systems and they are not interconnected. But if you look at it like, we see, I mean, it's the future of systems. Systems will need to learn to operate in this place where there are like many systems. Not all of them will be interoperable, and our apps will show us more than one system at the same time, and we can decide which one we are going to use. Something funny with Ambisi is that they have something they call the corner station, which is a station that is just inside Barcelona. So Ambisi has 2 stations around Barcelona where you can kind of hop off, and then maybe if you're a busy user, hop on a new bike and then go in. It's 2 different companies, so yeah, this query doesn't work. Let's just look at Ambisi. Yeah, we don't need to look at this. If you look at the system as a set of random points, it's ugly, but all these systems are interoperable on itself. So if somebody is not being interoperable in this particular, you could say it's missing. These are the corner stations that I was telling you. Here, over here, like you can just go here and then hop in a busy. Something I want to change on the project, now they count as different networks, which is just a way of engrossing the numbers of the project and saying that I have 800 systems. I want this to be a single entity called Ambisi, and then display it somehow nicer on the map and on the app that I meant to work. But it's a trickier problem, kind of, because you have to pull all these stations and see what kind of division. I mean, it's not a clean problem to work on. But yeah. But in the small app, you can see all the systems. Please.
Can I do a follow-up question?
Last one.
Well, just, I was thinking about it, no, but I was very excited when leasing started in Barcelona and they released like the leasing system for the night. Like they used to close it at 12 or something, and then they just made it like overnight. And it was a big thing, no? Because when you are young and you don't mind going around the bike and so on, it's like I'm not tied to the metro schedule and so on. And I was wondering if someone reached out to you, like also like in a data way, like encourage systems around the world to
do the same.
You know, like like an analytics part of training. Like,
Yes, I mean.
I'm gonna give you the answers to
Yes.
the questions that all bikes have.
Yeah, ideally I start doing something with all this information, and there could be a section where you can see what was the busiest system, or the less busy, or the smallest system that was more busy, or something like that, just to give popularity. But yeah, we still have some time for what's called when you finish
Networking.
Networking. So yeah, thank you. That was my talk.